There is a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. It shows up before sunrise, sweeps a yard no one will compliment, plants a garden no one will praise, and holds a piece of land together with nothing but the refusal to quit. Reeve Calloway had built an empire on that same principle. 300,000 acres across Cimarron County, 12,000 head of cattle, a name that moved judges and banks without a raised voice. He had seen everything the frontier produced. He had never seen anything like what he found that October morning. He rode the long trail back from Cedar Falls alone, the way he always rode when inspecting water. Cattle he trusted to his foreman. Water he checked himself. In that country, water wasn't a resource. It was the difference between an empire and a graveyard. And Reeve Calloway had not built what he built by delegating what mattered most. The sky sat low and gray. His stallion moved steady beneath him. He almost missed the ranch entirely. It sat below the trail line, tucked behind dead cottonwoods. The house was bleached pale as old bone. The south fence was gone. The porch rail had caved. Boards were missing from the barn wall. But the yard was swept clean. That morning clean, a thin line of dust still hanging in the still air, like proof of someone who had risen before the cold and done the work anyway. Reeve stopped. Then he saw the garden. Along the eastern wall, someone had worked a strip of hard October ground into neat rows, planted with the quiet defiance of a person who intended to still be here come spring. He dismounted and told himself it was to check the well boundary. He knew that was a lie before he finished thinking it. The front door stood open. Inside, a woman lay asleep in a chair beside a cold hearth. Boots on, sleeves rolled, a worn ledger book open across her knee, as if she had paused mid-accounting and her body had made a different decision without her permission. He stood at the threshold and did not move. He looked at the swept yard, the stubborn garden, the open door, and something in him went very quiet. Her name was on the deed framed above the cold fireplace. Vance Homestead. Registered 1869. Cimarron County, Kansas Territory. Faded paper in a cracked frame. Not decoration. Proof. She woke before he finished reading. No gasp, no scramble. Her eyes opened and found him with the flat precision of someone who had trained part of themselves to stay awake even in sleep. You're on private property. Not afraid, not angry, stating a fact. I am, Reeve said, staying in the doorway. Door was open. She closed the ledger in one motion and stood. She was perhaps 35, with the posture of someone who had spent years compensating for weight missing from the other side of things. Not broken by it, just permanently recalibrated. Nora Vance. Names were fair exchange. Running cattle? Sold the herd to keep the land. Last 2 seasons were dry. No apology in it, no invitation for sympathy, just the arithmetic of survival stated plainly. He understood. The drought years of the mid-1870s had forced small ranchers across southern Kansas into an impossible calculation: sell the livestock to hold the deed, or hold the animals and lose the land entirely. The Homestead Act of 1862 had promised free land to anyone willing to work 5 years. It had not promised rain. How long alone? Maintaining it, she said, correcting the assumption before he finished the question. Running required resources. Maintaining required only will. He looked at the collapsed fence, the garden rows, the swept yard. South fence is down, he said. I'm going to look at it. She hadn't asked him to. He went anyway. 3 sections gone, 2 more failing. The original work had been solid. Good post depth, correct wire gauge. Time had done what neglect finishes. Before 1874, a broken fence was inconvenience. Then, Joseph Glidden patented barbed wire, and the open range began its slow death. Fencing became survival. A gap in your line wasn't just a gap. It was an invitation for boundary disputes, drifting herds, and the particular kind of neighbor who arrived with a surveyor and a lawyer to clarify things in his favor. Nora Vance's fence was not a small problem. When he returned, she was hoeing between garden rows with the focused economy of someone rationing energy across a long day. Her hands were raw at the knuckles, the kind of rawness that builds over weeks, not days. 3 sections gone, he said. Any stock you bring in this spring drifts onto Cooper's pasture inside a week. She already knew. She kept hoeing. What would it take to fix it? Pricing a problem, not asking for rescue. 6 days, 2 men, $40 in materials. She didn't answer. $40 was not a number she had. I'm not offering to pay for it, he said. I'm offering to send the crew. In exchange for something. Hear me out first, then decide. They sat on the porch. He laid it out clean. Winter lease on the East Creek water rights. 8 weeks of cattle movement for 3 years. Fair market rate plus the fence crew, plus a barn roof repair before freeze. Why not just buy the parcel? She asked. That's what men with your name do. Because it's not for sale. How do you know I don't want to sell? He looked through the open door at the deed on the wall. Because you hung the title where you could see it every morning. Something shifted in her expression. Not warmth, but recognition. The look of someone accurately read who is deciding whether that's a comfort or a danger. In writing, she said, with a termination clause if your cattle damage the creek bank. He pulled a notebook from his coat and wrote the clause on his knee, right there on the porch. She read it twice, then a third time. Then she nodded. The fence crew arrived at first light. 4 men, loaded wagon, a full week of materials. Nora was already outside. She pulled a post hole digger from the wagon bed and carried it to the south line without a word. The foreman, Aldous, looked at her once and nodded with the quiet respect working people extend to other working people when no explanation is required. She worked the line with them all morning. By midday, her shoulders ached in a way that reached bone, but she reset her grip and kept moving. A section she'd calculated for 6 posts needed 7. The ground had shifted more than she'd measured. She pulled the extra post herself and didn't mention the error. Reeve arrived the second afternoon with a signed lease, notarized, 2 copies. She read it standing in the field, 1 boot propped on a newly set post. You added a drainage clause, she said. He had. Cattle traffic on a creek crossing without drainage management degrades the bank in 2 seasons, something she hadn't thought to ask for. It protects you, he said simply. That evening, Aldous told her what Calloway had said before the crew left his ranch. She'll know more about what that place needs than you do. Listen when she speaks. Nora held that information quietly, turning it over the way she turned everything. He hadn't sent a crew to work on her ranch. He'd sent them to work with her. That night, she stood in the repaired barn with a lantern, checking every rafter and joint. Fresh pine and old hay, warm light on new walls. 3 months ago, her only promise to herself had been, survive the winter, keep the deed, face spring with her name still on the land. She blew out the lantern and walked back through the cold dark. 1 breath, deep and slow, rising pale against the night. Then she went inside and loaded her father's Colt Navy revolver and set it on the ledger where she could reach it. Some promises required more than will to keep. November arrived hard. The first freeze locked the ground overnight. Nora was banking the garlic rows in straw when she heard a horse in the yard, a showy roan with silver-trimmed tack that had no business in working country. The man dismounted without being invited. "Gerald Pell, Land Acquisition, Wichita. I've been authorized to make you a serious offer." Nora set down her straw fork. "I've heard of Pell. Good news travels." The news I heard wasn't good. Pell worked the space just inside the law. Not a forger, not violent on the surface, but precise about finding ranchers at their lowest and presenting terms that looked fair until the details consumed them. He'd acquired 11 parcels in Cimarron County in 2 years, most from widows or drought-broke homesteaders who hadn't understood what they'd signed. As railroad lines pushed west through Kansas, speculators moved ahead of the tracks, buying distressed land cheap and reselling it at multiples that would have seemed criminal 5 years earlier. $1,200, Pell said. Clean sale, quick close. The property is under lease, water rights and pasture access signed and notarized through 1880. Leaseholder is Reeve Calloway. The broad smile didn't disappear. It recalibrated, slower, colder, becoming something else entirely. Leases are paper, Miss Vance. He let the silence work. Paper's fragile in a dry winter, and this county is a long ride from the nearest law office. He tucked his document away with the unhurried confidence of a man who had done this before. "I'll be back Friday. I'd suggest having a different answer ready." He rode out. Nora watched until the roan disappeared over the trail line. Then she went inside and wrote in her ledger, "Pell, November 4th. Threat made. Explicit. Friday." She sent a rider to Calloway that same hour. Reeve arrived Thursday evening with 3 men, quietly, without announcement, the way serious people handle serious situations before they escalate. He found Nora checking the Colt at the kitchen table. He sat across from her without being invited and looked at the revolver and then at her. "You know how to use it," he said. Not a question. "My husband taught me before he died." She set it on the table between them. "I'm not hiding in the house while Pell burns my fence." Reeve looked at her for a long moment. "Nobody's asking you to." Friday came cold and clear. Pell arrived mid-morning with 2 riders whose coats were clean and whose eyes were not. Hired men, the kind found at the edges of cattle towns where questions about the last job weren't asked. He pulled up at the south fence line, where Reeve stood with his 3 hands. Nora stood beside him, 6 feet to his left, the Colt on her hip and her eyes level. Pell took in the scene without expression. Then he looked at Reeve. "Calloway, didn't expect you personally." "I inspect my water rights personally," Reeve said. "This creek runs through a property under my lease. That makes what happens here my business." Pell glanced at Nora, at the revolver, at the 3 men behind Reeve who had the particular stillness of people who had done this before and weren't nervous about doing it again. "Miss Vance has until Sunday," Pell said. "The offer stands." "The offer is declined," Nora said. Her voice carried across the cold field without effort. "It was declined Monday. It was declined when you threatened me. It's declined now. This land is not for sale, and the next time you ride onto it, I will have the county sheriff here to meet you." A long silence. One of Pell's riders shifted in his saddle. The other stared at a fixed point somewhere past the fence line. Pell looked at Reeve once more, measuring, calculating, and found nothing to work with. He touched the brim of his hat, turned his horse, and rode. Nobody said anything for a moment after the sound of hooves faded. Then Aldous, standing behind Reeve's left shoulder, said quietly, "That's the first time I've seen Pell leave without the paperwork." Reeve glanced at Nora. She was already walking back toward the house. Word traveled fast in that county. By the following week, 3 ranchers had ridden to the Vance place specifically to ask what had happened at the south fence line. A land broker turning away from a signed confrontation was not a common occurrence, and people who live close to the ground noticed uncommon occurrences. Samuel Darrington, the county land recorder in Cedar Falls, stopped Reeve outside his office 2 weeks later. "Heard Pell left the Vance property empty-handed," Samuel said. "He did." Samuel shook his head slowly. "You know what you did, leasing from a broke widow with a failing fence? Every speculator in the territory is going to think twice before approaching a property with your name on the paperwork." "That's the intention," Reeve said. Samuel looked at him over his spectacles. "Most men in your position would have just bought the parcel." "Most men would have," Reeve said. "She didn't want to sell." Samuel was quiet for a moment. Then, "In 30 years of recording deeds in this county, I don't think I've seen that once." He looked down at his ledger. "A rich man who takes no for an answer from a woman with nothing." He said it plainly, without ceremony, but it landed the way plain things do when they're true. Reeve rode back to the Vance Ranch that afternoon and told Nora what Samuel had said. She listened with the ledger open in her lap. "He's right," she said. "That is unbelievable." She said it without irony, with the same directness she applied to everything. "Thank you, Reeve." It was the first time she had used his given name. He didn't make anything of it, but he noticed. December settled in hard. The creek froze edge inward, slow gray plates building toward the dark center current. Reeve's cattle crossed twice a week. Nora monitored the crossings as the lease required: water level, ice conditions, bank compression, and sent weekly reports to Cedar Falls. He replied with brief, precise notes that added context to what she was tracking. It was a correspondence of facts that was, without either of them naming it, something else entirely. He arrived in person the 3rd Thursday, ostensibly to check the crossing before the heaviest cattle movement of the season. He found her crouching at the bank, examining a section of compressed soil. "Needs a branch and rock deflector here and 3 yards upstream," she said, without looking up. "Slows the approach, distributes the weight." He crouched beside her. She was right. The technique was used by experienced ranchers across the territory to protect high-traffic stream crossings, practical knowledge that lived in people rather than books. They stood. Neither moved away with the hurry of someone who found the proximity uncomfortable. "These reports," he said. "In 10 years, whoever works this land will know exactly how this crossing behaves. That knowledge usually dies with the person who holds it. You're making it survive." She looked at him. "You've been thinking about who works this land in 10 years." "I have," he said. The wind moved through the cottonwood stands. The cold was deep and honest, the kind that clarifies rather than confuses. "Miss Vance," he said, in the register he used to open a negotiation, but slower. "I'd like to discuss whether the arrangement between us might take a different form, something permanent." She held his gaze without looking away. "You're talking about more than the lease." "I am." She did not answer immediately. She never answered anything that deserved consideration with anything less than consideration. She answered him 3 days later, Tuesday morning, frost on the grass, no ceremony. She rode to his ranch, tied her horse at the gate, and walked to where he was working on the north pasture water tank. He saw her coming and waited. "I have conditions," she said. Something moved through his expression, quiet, warm. "The Vance deed stays registered separately. The 320 is mine. My name, my title." "Agreed." "I manage the East Range records. The ledger system stays intact." "I'd expect nothing less." "And I don't become an ornament. If I'm part of this operation, I'm part of it." He looked at her steadily. "I told my fence crew you'd know more about that ranch than they would. I've known what I was looking at since October." The silence between them held more than words could carry. "Then we're agreed," she said. He extended his hand. She shook it, firm and clean, the same as the first time. Not relief, not rescue. The steady confidence of someone who had read every clause and found the terms sound. Spring came the way it always had, slow, testing what the winter had left standing. The garlic pushed through the straw first. The fence line held true. The barn roof shed snowmelt without a gap. The creek bank showed none of the degradation that had threatened it in November, and on the first page of the new spring ledger, the heading had changed. Callaway Vance Ranch, Cimarron County, Spring 1878. Nora was turning the first garden row of the season when she heard Reeves' horse in the yard. She looked up with the easy recognition of someone who knew who was coming and found the sound welcome. He walked to the garden edge. "Beans this year?" "Beans and squash, rotating off the rye ground." He nodded. Sound decision. They stood in the early spring light, two people who had built something carefully, condition by condition, repair by repair, not out of rescue, not out of sentiment, out of the recognition that some things work better together than apart. There is a kind of wealth that doesn't announce itself with silver-trimmed tack or Wichita ledgers. It announces itself in a swept yard at first light, in a fence line that holds through the first cattle push of spring, in the handwriting of two people who understood that the strongest agreements are built on respect, not need, not desperation, not fear of a man who arrives with a smile and a document and a threat about dry winters. Callaway Vance Ranch, 320 acres, registered jointly, permanent. That deed was not on the wall. It didn't need to be. Both of them knew exactly where it was. You just rode with Shadows of the Wild West, where the West is told the way it actually was. Leave a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Subscribe. The next story is already waiting.